Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Barrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Wierenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Wierenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from Blaine, Minnesota.
And the home of the Ice Hogs, Rockford, Illinois.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast for episode 81 for Tuesday, February 8th, 2022. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring debate on winter diets for your herd, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. I am Sean O'Brien from Stats Track and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And I am Courtney Bauman of Full Press Hockey and from Center Ice.
And thank you guys for tuning in with us tonight. Cece is out of pocket tonight. Feel free to speculate amongst yourselves where he is. I heard a rumor he was in Vegas auditioning to be mini Jack Hughes at the All-Star competition, but didn't make the cut as he looks nothing like Jack Hughes. If you're new to hearing what is usually Cece and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap some of the matchups from the past weekend for you both. We watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our YouTube channel or podcast feed, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're newer to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes watching the NHL All-Star game. The skills competition is appointment TV. The actual game is less compelling than your local beer league. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey? We have a few bits and pieces of news here to go over before we get to weekend recaps, though. First, minor note, but still of note, teams are switching jerseys at home, which means they're going from wearing white at home to wearing dark at home. We put a poll up on Twitter and Facebook to kind of see what people thought about this. Courtney, what are your thoughts on it? Do you like the white or the dark at home? Do you like the mid-season switch? Is it all just a blur?
You know, I think I'm the odd one out when it comes to this topic because I love when teams wear their dark colors at home. And I know a lot of people like when they wear the whites because then you get to see other colors from other teams or whatever. But I'm a big fan of just having your team's colors just bright and loud and having that on the ice all season. It always throws me off in the AHL how they switch half season. So you're watching, you're like, oh, okay, they're wearing the whites at home. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, something is different, but I can't figure out what it is. And then you're like, it's jersey switch time.
I personally like the darks at home too, and I believe as of right now they are the lead in the Twitter polls, but I'm surprised at how close it is. For me, like, this is you wear your colors in your hometown, you know.
Right.
Fans were like, oh yeah, but we'd like to see the colors from the other teams. Are you rooting for the other teams? The other teams are the bad guys. Who cares what their colors look like? You're at home. You wear your banner. You fly your flags. You fly your banners. You wear your colors. Like that, and the white jerseys for the most part are kind of boring. Like it's just a bleach reversed of the home jersey and looks. I mean, there aren't too many teams who like have a real nice white jersey where it's like that's actually maybe better than the home jersey. Like I can't think of any in the AHL.
Maybe Seattle if you jump up to the NHL. I know a lot of people like the away whites more than the homes. But in the AHL, I can't think of one.
Yeah, I can't really think of anyone either who like I would prefer their whites. For most of my jerseys, and I have a lot of them, I like the dark ones for a couple of reasons. One, the home colors, and two, when you spill stuff on them, it's much easier to clean. like getting, stains out of a white jersey is very, very challenging. They have to spend basically a weekend at Club OxyClean, and it's a real pain.
Pretty much, yeah.
So
It's terrible.
I'm definitely team dark jersey at home. I also like what the NBA is doing, and several other sports are starting to kind of experiment with, where they're doing like there isn't home and away jersey anymore. As long as there is enough contrast, you can do whatever you want. And
that's amazing.
The only sport that has done a little bit of mixing with this for years that still drives me insane is baseball, because baseball will have one team wear white and the other team wear white when it's dirty, otherwise known as light gray. So it's like at a glance, I can't tell what team is at bat because one of them is in white and one of them is light gray. And I'm like, which team is which? Both teams have that kind of color palette.
That's horrendous.
Yeah, like that's the only part of it that drives me nuts in like modern sports, but like teams that have very contrasting colors that aren't red green. So like Iowa and Rockford could not do a color jersey game because red green color blindness is the most common, and to people with red green color blindness, which is like 8% of the population, so 1 in 12 would not be able to have any idea what's going on. So outside of that,
yeah, and Iowa doesn't have a third jersey, do they?
they have like an off color one, I believe. They don't wear it very often, but like also, no, actually I take that back. Iowa's whites are sharp with the red like numbers on the back.
Yeah, I don't pay close enough attention to the Iowa Wild, so
Got a good look at him this weekend, but I'm just
yeah, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately and unfortunately, I guess.
Well, let's move on here. We do have a kind of an odd news story here. Rockford fired their head trainer in November, and we are more or less just learning about it now.
Sean, could you remind me what day it is?
It is currently 8:50 p.m. on February 7th.
So it's no longer November or 2021.
Correct.
And we just learned about this yesterday.
Also correct. To catch those up to speed who have no idea what we're talking about here, an incident of sexual harassment was reported to the Chicago Blackhawks organization on October 27th, 2021. You'll recognize that as, I think, 2 days after the Block and Jenner report came out. And if you don't know what the Block and Jenner report is for the Chicago Blackhawks, at this point, I'm sending you to Google. I do not want to unpack that for a God knows how many times. But the Blackhawks suspended Jones and investigated, and 5 days later fired him. This was for sexual harassment towards a member of the Ice Hogs crew. Rockford promoted their assistant trainer, John Walter, to the head trainer position, and then hired a new guy as the assistant trainer in Patrick Chun. None of this was reported or noted by the team in any kind of press release. It was very much just, oh, yeah, we have a new trainer and a new assistant trainer, and there wasn't anything from the Rockford Ice Hogs as an official announcement or press release or anything of the sort. So, yeah. Chicago being the beacon of transparency here, that lasted real long.
Yeah, I mean, so I was just scrolling along on Twitter yesterday, right? Everybody's sitting down, getting ready to watch the Olympics. It was at night. And then here comes Emily Kaplan into my timeline, and she says, news. The Chicago Blackhawks fired the longtime head athletic trainer of their AHL affiliate for sexual harassment in November. Sources told Jesse Rogers, ESPN, and me. Story coming. And I was like, wait, what? Because I haven't been to games since the end of November, and this happened at the beginning of November, and I don't recall anything being that different, and I don't really remember them not announcing him because they announced the whole staff beforehand, but they didn't start their home schedule until November because of renovations. So it was just something that nobody really noticed, which is strange because he was in his 16th season with the team. Nobody noticed him being gone. Obviously, the team didn't say anything since we just learned about this yesterday. But at the same time, it's kind of moving in the right direction for the organization because it only took 5 days for them to fire him.
But
So
this was an opportunity to really embrace the spirit of we're going to do the right thing here and all of these things. Like, you had a very slam dunk opportunity here to be like, look how transparent we are. We had a complaint about sexual harassment against one of our employees. We suspended him pending investigation. We investigated quickly. We found conclusive evidence that, yeah, that happened. And we canned him. Like, that's it. All you had to do was that. And people would have been like, oh, maybe the Blackhawks have learned something from all of this. And then seeing that Rocky Wirtz loses his mind at a press conference, and then I hear that the Blackhawks are interviewing Peter Chiarelli for their GM position, has taught me affirmatively, no, they have learned nothing. The Blackhawks have learned nothing.
Sean, I am exhausted. This team, this organization might actually kill me.
Yeah, that's very fair.
It's like every day there's something new. This time it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, what started all was a bad thing, but they did fire him. They actually did an investigation this time, as opposed to, that time that Rocky Wirtz refuses to talk about now. So they did that. They did it correctly, but I don't know if this team has a PR person or what, because everything they're doing is wrong.
I'm assuming whatever they've probably run the gamut of PR people at this point, because they get in there and they're like, I have a chance to really make a name for myself in the PR business. And they see what a gong show it is. And they're like, actually, you know what? There are probably, dictators in third world countries who need me.
Probably.
It's really not good. And this very much feels like the kind of, oh, we did the right thing while simultaneously trying to not bring attention to it that Wilkes-Barre Scranton did with the Scaldies, which again we'll not go into because we already have covered that in one of my rants that required quite a lot of censorship from our editor. But yeah, it's not great. And they had a chance to make this an easy one and just an easy dunk of a story here where they did you did the right thing and then didn't want to take any of the credit for doing the right thing. That's not a smart move for a team that needs any kind of doing the right thing moment. But
no, I don't know if they thought, oh, it's too close to when the report came out. But in my opinion, that's probably the perfect time to do it.
And I guess they ran out of manufactured stories that Jonathan Taves was okay, or that their head coach was doing social justice things, but whatever. Because those were definitely planned to be offsetting, in case no one was aware. Let's move on, though. I think we've gone over the important points here. We did get a wide-ranging interview with Scott Howson from Patrick Williams, the AHL's Bob McKenzie without the margaritas. Patrick Williams talked to Scott Howson, which normally is like a big all-star kind of thing that's the AHL commissioner does, where he kind of does a miniature State of the Union, fields a bunch of open questions, gives his time pretty generously. This was the first time for Scott Howson, but again, we canceled the All-Star weekend. But we're the first press organization or media-ish outlet that did All-Star things, so credit to us for that. But we did have that interview kind of somewhat take place and learned a couple of interesting tidbits from Scott Howson of what's in the pipeline for the AHL. One of which is that Coachella Valley will be the 10th Pacific Division team, and no one is leaving after they get in, as we all kind of thought, like, all right, Tucson and Colorado are probably going to duck into the Central to kind of balance things a little bit. Nope, not happening.
Nope, we're just going to have one giant division out west that comprises most of the teams in our league.
And like, I understand why Tucson would probably not be thrilled to go to the Central, but like for Colorado, it's basically the same travel distance. Like Iowa and Milwaukee and Texas are pretty much the same distance as, Bakersfield, San Jose, that kind of mix. So like,
yeah, Colorado's got it rough out there.
Not to mention,
kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Not to mention, too, like your NHL club is in the Central. For Tucson, your AHL or your NHL club is going to be in the Central next season. So, or is in
they
the
are
Central,
this season.
They are this season. Sorry,
yep.
I stand corrected. They're in the Central this season. So, like, if your NHL club is on a road trip in Detroit and your AHL club being in the other division is on, a road trip through California, you are now further apart for call-ups where you could have been in Iowa or Texas or whatever and had a closer flight or better flight arrangement for travel should you need an emergency call-up. So I would have thought from a team perspective, the move would have been to be at least in the same general division as your NHL club. But also, the Colorado Eagles are independently known and aren't exactly the most established for just, oh, sure, we'll do things that are maybe financially a little bit inconvenient for us. Kelly Cup. So that's probably at least a teeny bit of it. Other interesting things that came out of this, he said the expectation is for all 32 teams to be in the same place they are for the 22-23 season. That's good news for Stockton, who has definitely had fears in their fan base of this is the end. He said that the partnership with Genius Sports has, quote, gone great. So far, it's been a win-win, certainly for the league and what we're hearing, a win for Genius Sports. We'll continue to work with Genius Sports and see if there are ways to grow it. And then our teams, they're all free to deal with other betting partners, and they are doing that. But, what is Genius Sport? We haven't seen any progress from the public as to what Genius Sports' partnership is gaining either of them. The only site that you can bet on AHL games right now is Bovada, and that is one that is very sketchy in terms of U.S. legality. So,
yeah, I had never even heard of Genius Sports until I read this article from Patrick. So I looked it up. I went to their website, and there's no mention of the AHL on it at all. So I'm assuming this partnership is going fantastic if they just don't have their name on their website at all.
Yeah, I really don't. And I'm sure that stuff is happening, but it doesn't really do you a lot of good to say this partnership is going great. Everyone's, it's a win-win. So what have they done?
And who's winning?
Yeah, what wins have you booked? I would love to get on the AHL because I've seen the lines on Bovada they're giving, and please give me some of that. But that was one that I feel like follow-up questions were needed there, and to give us any indirection of what actually is happening. But I'm glad it's going well.
I guess. I still don't understand how they are partnered, but sure.
So the last note here is about making time on ice public. And Scott Housen said, quote, "It's something we're exploring. The problem with what we're doing with time on ice is that it just wasn't accurate enough. We're trying to find a way to make sure that we bring it before our board and say we want to go public with it. We want it to be accurate. So we're still in the process of digging into that." I am going to call bullshit here. I am going to throw all of the bullshit flags I have.
Please do.
All 32 teams use video software to clip games and shifts, plus the partnership with Hockey Tech that provides them the shot location data, plus the data you're getting from Genius Sports. All three of those combined isn't accurate enough to get time on ice correct.
They're supposedly getting data from Genius Sports.
I mean,
supposedly.
That's what they're trying to sell to us. So I am calling bullshit here.
I can't tell you how many times I have tried to find time on ice for AHL players. And then I have to remind myself, oh yeah, we don't get to know that actually. It's a bit ridiculous.
It doesn't even make sense too. And all of the excuse, it's not that accurate excuse. I'm well, you guys post not accurate data all the time. Have you seen your shots on goal counter? It's fine. We'll take it. Just give us something.
Right.
I understand you don't want to do face-off data because it's not accurate, because face-off data is never accurate. Spoiler alert, guys. I've tracked face-off data. It's not great, and it's meaningless. But I don't know. I don't quite buy into that one as much. But
do you know, before we move on 1 second, do you know how the NHL tracks time on ice? Offhand?
I want to say they either, now they definitely do it with the chip technology they have, where they have the chips in the jerseys. That probably made it a lot easier because it tracks everything, and they can just scrape the data to make that what it is. Beforehand, I believe they just had either it being done by software. So when they would pull clips, it automatically clips player shifts. So it gives you a direct counter that way. I can't imagine they had spotters do it because that sounds insane, but they've done more insane things with spotters. And again, even at the NHL level, the data is not perfectly accurate. All right. So I think that's just about everything to cover from news and notes around the league here. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the games that actually happened. All right. We will kick off as we always do, going east to west. We don't have a Pacific division this week, so we're going to go east to Midwest. But let's kick it off with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins here. They played a weekend against Bridgeport on Friday and Saturday at Providence. Let's recap some goals here. Friday, Alex Nylander breaks the ice and scores off a beautiful behind-the-back setup from Sam Poulin to give the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins a 1-0 lead early in the first period. They double up their lead just under 2 minutes later as Jan Drozig puts a rebound past Corey Schneider. The Sound Tigers get back on the board as Kyle McLean puts home a loose rebound at the net front. The Sound Tigers then get another good break as Eric Brown slashes the stick out of Felix Robert's hands, doesn't get called for a penalty, then gets a tip on a point shot that got past Robert because he didn't have a stick, and it goes in and he ties the game at 2 of the first period. Jeff Kubiak makes possibly the most unforced turnover in hockey history as he misplays a puck along the wall right into the slot where Anthony Angelo recovers it and beats Schneider to make it 3-2 Pens in the second period. The Sound Tigers rally back as Blade Jenkins finds Paul Thompson across Royal Road to make a tap-in to tie it at 3 in the second period. Around the midpoint of the third, Sam Poulin makes another heads-up play right around the net front and finds P.O. Joseph activating from the slot from the blue line. Joseph rips one past Schneider to give the Penguins a 4-3 lead, and that would stand. The Penguins beat the Sound Tigers 4-3 on Friday. Saturday, a little bit of a different story. We make it all the way to the 4-minute mark of the second period before someone breaks the tie as Philip Hallander makes a highlight reel pass from behind the net to Jonathan Gruden streaking through the slot. Gruden buries it past Swayman for the 1-0 lead. The Bruins tie the game on the power play as a shorthanded rush chance by the Penguins gets stopped. The Bruins go right back on the counterattack, and Zach Senyshyn puts one 5-hole past Napier to tie the game at 1. The third period did not give us a winner, so we head to OT where the Penguins make a gaffe in man-to-man coverage that leaves Stephen Fogarty with a 2-on-1 in the slot area. He dishes it across Royal Road to Jesper Frodin for the tap-in game winner. 3-2 Bruins in overtime is your final on Saturday. Sorry, I believe that's 2-1. Definitely a 2-1 score on Saturday, not 3. My mistake. We made some picks of what we thought would happen when Cece and I previewed the weekend. Cece picked Wilkes-Barre Scranton losing to both Providence and Bridgeport. I picked them over the Sound Tigers, but under the Bruins, so I got it right. The model had them as a tiny underdog on Friday, but a 51.8% underdog to Providence on Saturday. So they would have been a 48.2% on Saturday. All right, Courtney.
Shall we hop to the team level takeaways here?
Yep, let's go to it.
So they were two very different games here for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and a dominant win over Bridgeport, a back and forth loss to Providence. What, Sean, was the big difference between the two games for the Penguins?
One was a very interesting tactical difference from the Penguins that we'll get to in just a second. Bridgeport very much was sloppy and uninspired early on in this game. They got very fortunate to get back in the game off somewhat fluky goal by McLean, and then a goal that shouldn't have happened by Eric Brown. But for the most part, Bridgeport was a turnover machine on breakouts. I mean, the whole team just had concrete in their gloves. At any minute, they tried to touch the puck in their defensive zone. It was a comedy of errors on their end. And you're flat not going to win games when you make those kind of mistakes through 3 periods. The other thing that I saw that was really interesting was a tactical shift from Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So on occasion, you'll see the Pittsburgh Penguins use what's known as a 2-3 strategy in the offensive zone, where basically you have 2 forwards low in the zone, and then you have both defensemen at the points and a third forward kind of up at the point, and they make almost like a little miniature umbrella, like what you used to see on the power play in the 90s. And basically, this is incredibly effective at creating high odd man chances where they can basically outnumber the other team 3-on-2. And this is especially effective against teams who use kind of a hybrid man-zone defensive structure where you have man-to-man at the points, but then your third forward, instead of covering that third forward for the Penguins at the point, kind of sits back and holds the slot. And then your two defensemen play man-to-man. So it's kind of like you see a hybrid man-zone defense. That's what the Islanders play in New York. That's what the Sound Tigers play in Bridgeport because, well, duh. You only see that occasionally from the Pittsburgh Penguins. So to see the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins break it out and use it very effectively because they were able to create those high 3-on-2s and then just funnel chances down through the slot. And this is something that you saw Tampa Bay and use to just continuously beat the Islanders in the playoffs last year. And you see it occasionally from Pittsburgh, but usually when it's like Crosby, Letang, Malkin on the ice because they're the high-skilled players that can use this kind of thing. And to see the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins repeatedly use it on Friday's game against Bridgeport, kind of with that, as soon as I saw it break out, I'm like, oh, this is going to go poorly because I watched Tampa do this to the Islanders all throughout the playoffs. And that's exactly what the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins did. They created high cycles. They outnumbered Bridgeport at the top of the slot, and then they just drilled the offense down through. The goal that P.O. Joseph scored to break the tie was exactly a play off of that. You saw a 3-2 high. Joseph drives down through the slot, undetected by Bridgeport, and taps home the game winner. I mean, yeah, Poulin makes a beautiful one-handed assist at the net front, but still, like, that play is based off of the 2-3 formation and Joseph activating off the blue line. Against Providence, you didn't see that strategy, though. Wilkes-Barre Scranton never got into the 2-3 at all. They pretty much abandoned it, which maybe it was because they didn't get a lot of zone time and they just never had the chance to set it up. Maybe this was an intentional tactical shift as Providence plays a much more direct man-to-man. They don't have that kind of hybrid zone guy in the middle, and it wouldn't be as effective. But against Providence, Wilkes-Barre Scranton struggled to maintain momentum early on and was forced to play a lot of dump and chase. Providence did a very good job through stretches of the game, shutting the neutral zone down, mostly in the first and third period. The Wilkes-Barre Scranton power play also had an advantage of Providence playing very passive and still wasn't really able to convert or do much outside of one chance from Poulin in the bumper spot. They really kind of just seemed content working the puck along the outside and hoping that outside shots and traffic in front would get the job done. And spoiler, it did not, as it frequently doesn't. They also had the ice tilted in the second period, but in the first and third period, Wilkes-Barre Scranton got badly outshot, badly outchanced. They were lucky to get that game into overtime. So the fact they got a loser point out of that game in Providence, I'd say, is certainly not nothing, but that was a game it did not look like they were the best team in for 2/3 of the game. And part of me wonders if they got that 2-3 going, if that would have been a bit of a difference, but we'll never know. But those were the big differences, is that tactical shift and just better execution from Providence than compared to Bridgeport, who is just tripping all over themselves in their own zone.
So when it comes to the players, on the player level, what did you see from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins this weekend?
I really liked Johnny Hockey, John Drozig. For a guy with only 10 points on the season, he played like a guy who was a lot more than that. Made one bad turnover against Providence due to lazy puck protection. But the rest of the weekend, creating offense, manipulating space in the offensive zone, anticipating play, and getting a jump on play going the other way. Very interesting to see from him. I don't know if that's going to stick, as he's not normally a guy I would attribute those tools to. But for at least the weekend, he looked impressive. Philip Hallander, too, I've definitely seen growth from him compared to like the last couple times we checked in with him. We can start to see that he's getting more comfortable with the speed, the physicality of the AHL. He had 2 points in his first 12 games in Wilkes-Barre Scranton this season. He has 5 points in his last 8. That assist to Gruden started as a very risky play by him, where he could have gotten caught deep in the zone as the play went the other way. But he caught a good break, and he made it count as he found Gruden through that maze of players for the first goal in game on Saturday. That's a play that you'll see Sidney Crosby make in Pittsburgh. And not to say that Hallander is going to be Sidney Crosby or is even regularly approaching Sidney Crosby levels, but to at least see a play like that from him, where he took a big risk to make some offense, and then as soon as the break came his way, he made sure that he made it count. those are impressive moves from Philip Hollander. And the same could be said of Sam Poulin. Starting to see him get more comfortable. Like the game is slowing down for him. The assist to Nylander in the opening goal of Friday's game was just a beautiful display of vision. That behind the back pass that you make going behind as you're circling behind the net. So you have the goalie looking over his shoulder, going from one side to the other. Beautiful display of vision and chemistry between him and Nylander, the two Swedes. I'm surprised you don't see teams try and make that play intentional more often, as it's really hard to defend. Also a mixed weekend for P.O. Joseph. The activating off the blue line at the right time was impressive. Looked very comfortable in the 2-3 on Friday. Part of me wonders if that's because his brother Matthew Joseph plays it all the time in Tampa. But made a lot of mistakes Saturday that I'd care to see less of. Couldn't get things going in transition. Got walked on a rush chance as well. Took a stupid penalty. Got away with at least 2 other penalties that I saw where he was out-positioned and resorted to some bum stick work. Not the complete I don't belong here, send me back to Pittsburgh weekend for P.O. Joseph that I was hoping to see, but there's still a lot of good raw tools there. I think he's going to be an NHLer, but I think that ceiling is starting to come down a bit.
The results from this weekend are in the books, so now we have to move forward. Where do both of these teams go from here?
The Penguins head to Rochester on Wednesday before having another split weekend with Belleville and Lehigh Valley. Their schedule is full of a lot of these split weekends, which definitely is a detriment to them, as it means they have to prepare for and practice and plan around more different teams, differing strategies, that kind of thing. Seeing how they kind of flexed the 2-3 in and out of their repertoire this weekend gives me hope that coaching staff knows what it's doing and is making these intentional choices. But Rochester, Belleville, and Lehigh Valley have all 3 struggled with consistency, which bodes well for Wilkes-Barre Scranton. The Emmerich getting Aaron Dell back should significantly boost them, as it means they're no longer required to play ECHL caliber goaltenders in every game. However, Jack Quinn is out, and Buffalo, I think off the top of my head, has 8 guys on various forms of IR, so that's not great. Lehigh Valley is still icing a roster that's been crushed with injuries at the Flyers level and Tyson Forrester at the Phantoms level. That's not great for them. They've been struggling recently, although it's at least looked more competent in the latter half of the season so far. Belleville's a hardworking team, but lacks a lot of offensive depth. Ottawa also has 7 players on various forms of IR, whether that be long-term, season opening, or just regular old garden variety IR. So that's hurt them a bunch. But Belleville still is a team that is going to get back up every time you knock them down. So this is a good opportunity for Wilkes-Barre Scranton, despite weird travel and the split weekends, to trying to at least be the more consistent, more talented team on paper here, top to bottom. But execution is a whole different thing. I think that covers everything we have to talk about Wilkes-Barre Scranton, though. So we're going to head to break. After the break, we will get to the Laval Rockets. If you're just here for Wilkes-Barre Scranton, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media, where we do the memes, where we do apparently polls now. We're now branching out into my day job and running polls now. And so check us out there on social media. Links to all of that and more can be found in our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We will be right back. Stay tuned. And we are back, and we're going to talk about the Laval Rockets, the Rockets de Laval. They played Friday, 7 p.m. at Utica, Saturday, 7 p.m. at Belleville. A nice little road trip there. Let's start, as we always do, with a quick recap of the box score and the goals that were scored. Friday, A.J. Greer breaks the ice after an insane pass redirect from Alexander Holtz. Holtz redirects a pass behind his back while in motion to Greer, who walks right into the slot and rifles one past Kevin Poulin. One incredibly stupid penalty by Brandon Baddock later. A.J. Greer has the Utica Comets fans looking for their hats as he pots his second goal of the night and the second for the Comets. A nice setup off a fake windup from Corey Schoeneman gives Torey Dello all the time and space he needs to walk in and blast one past Akira Schmid to make it 2-1 in the second period. Schoeneman wasn't done as he gets a lucky break on a low-danger shot that beats Schmid from distance to tie the game in the third period. We head to overtime, where Alex Holtz goes coast to coast and catches Kevin Poulin way off his angle. Holtz does what he does best, shoot, and takes the game winner. 3-2 Comets in overtime. Saturday, Rourke Chartier gets sprung on a 2-on-1 thanks to Brandon Baddock chasing hits instead of playing defense. Chartier overpowers Guidon with a shot to make it 1-0. Michael Delzato finds Chartier across Royal Road thanks to another missed defensive play by Brandon Baddock to make it 2-0 Senators. The T10, Igor Sokolov, makes it 3-0 after a defensive breakdown leaves him open in the slot. Logan Shaw takes a break away from his blue line as Xavier Ouellette blows a tire, and Shaw puts one 5-hole short-handed. Jesse Ulanen gets the Rocket off on the board as a Royal Road pass 5-on-3 hits him right in the wheelhouse to get the Rocket on the board 4-1 in garbage time. But Jake Lucchini gets a tip, and Mark Haslick scores on the Oshie play during an extended power play thanks to a Gabriel Bork high-sticking double minor. Belleville would take it 6-1. In our picks, CC chose the Comets on Friday, but took Laval over Belleville. I did the same thing. The model had Laval as a favorite over Utica on Friday, but Belleville as a favorite on Saturday. So we got some of the parts of this weekend right. As Utica, while CC and I did, we both took Utica, but the model took Belleville, and we didn't listen.
Well, you should have listened to the computers this time around, at least for the second game there. But it wasn't the weekend that the Rocket were hoping for after scoring some edit time. This wasn't the weekend that the Rocket were hoping for after scoring some big victories recently. They lost to Utica on Friday, lost J.S. Day and Alec Belzile to injury, and that hurt extra. They were already down Yoel Teasdale, which meant that by the time the Rocket got to Saturday's game against the Senators, they were short their top 3 centers. That's going to hurt. That's a rough go of it for sure. How did the Rocket carry on without them?
Not well. And I realized that I set you up for failure there. Joel Teasdale was not the one that went down. It was Lucas Vedamo. I just remembered that right now. My mistake. So yeah, they lost J.S. Day, Alex Belzile, and Lucas Vedamo, their top 3 centers there. But yeah, the Rocket looked like the best team on the ice for maybe half a period against Utica on Friday, and it just was all downhill from there. The biggest takeaway for this weekend for the Rocket is they cannot defend Royal Road or passes into the slot to save their lives. And the last time we checked in with the Rocket, which granted was a while ago, this was still a very big problem. I don't know if it has kind of gone up and then come back down, or if it's just been a flatline problem the whole way across. But wow, that was incredibly bad, especially when you have a goalie who has 23 professional hockey starts under his belt and was kind of below average in the ECHL in that limited time. Yes, losing your top 3 centers in the span of a few days will certainly cripple your roster, but you have to be able to defend better than that. And for those of you out there who hear me say Royal Road and don't understand what that means, I'll try and explain it here quickly. We also do a very good job of covering this in our episode 0. If you haven't listened to that, wherever you're listening to us from, whether it be a podcast catcher like Spotify or Apple or on YouTube, scroll all the way back to our first episode. It's called episode 0. It's a 20-minute primer on some of the stuff we talk about regularly, Royal Road being one of them. But what Royal Road is it's an imaginary line that if you drew from the in between the face-off dots in the offensive zone and just drew a straight line down the middle that cuts the goal in half, cuts the offensive zone in half, hot dog style, as it were. Basically passes that cross that, or shots that come off passes that cross that line go in exponentially more, because that pass that crosses that kind of center line there that divides the zone in half means goalies have to shift side to side more. They're unable to be set and in position because they just had to make a big shift, and because they don't see where their post is behind them, they just kind of have to know their mark. And even at the professional level, anytime you can get a goalie moving side to side like that, it's advantage shooter. And defending those passing lanes is pretty much the defense's primary job, is to let the goaltender focus on the shooter, focus on the plays that he can see directly in front of him, and have your defense basically cover backdoor passes. That's why you see plays that go across Royal Road be so successful, and why it's a big cause of problems for goaltenders. Because if that pass has gone through 10 out of the last 10 times, well, now in your brain, you're going to start cheating because you don't trust your defense to block that pass. And when you start leaning off your post and start cheating away, that's when it goes very poorly, because shooters, even at the AHL level, will see that, and then they will start rifling them past you because you don't trust your defense. And then when they start rifling them past you cleanly like that, your defense stops trusting your goaltender, and now everyone's running around trying to do the other guy's job. This goes badly. Now, the collapse of that kind of trust you see in some places around the league. San Jose for one, Tucson for one, but it hasn't quite made it to the Laval level yet, where goalies are cheating off of their marks to defend against those passes. But man, was Laval bad this weekend defending east-west Royal Road passes to high danger areas. Like, they got through at alarming rates, even if the follow-up shots didn't always make it on goal. Laval blocked a lot of shots this weekend, especially against Utica. And blocking shots is good, but it's also a bad sign, because you only get to block shots when the other team has possession in your zone. So, yeah, that's great that you blocked 20 shots, but that also means that the opposing team had possession of the puck and was in shooting position in your zone a whole bunch. That's not good.
Yeah, so before we move on to the next segment, you had talked about Alex Holtz's beautiful overtime goal in that first game against Laval. And usually when you have an overtime goal, that's the end, right? Because, it's first to score, you win, game's over, teams go off. That wasn't necessarily the case in this game. Did you want to talk about the post-game shenanigans in Utica?
I mean, not especially, but I feel like you're right. We do have to kind of touch on that. You couldn't, obviously neither of us were in Utica to watch this game, which is unfortunate because it looked like a good crowd and a fun time. But you couldn't see too much on the broadcast of what started this scrum. But I am going to put the responsibility of what happened 100% on Laval. You just lost on the road. Utica was celebrating Alexander Holtz's goal with, your usual everyone off the bench, go hug the guy, on the opposite side of the ice from the benches. So you hung around long enough for everyone to finish, the dog pile celebration on the other side of the ice. And we're coming to center ice to do their, very standard stick salute. And you were still there. No, you just lost on the road. Go to your locker room. There was no reason for you to be there. The only reason Laval has to hang around at that point is to start some scumbag stuff, period. There was nothing good that was going to come from Laval not heading to the locker room as that goal went in. Nothing. And you have to recognize that.
And then you have a coach trying to break it up in Kevin Dineen.
Kevin Dineen's part in it was strange, but if you're standing there, because the coach in Utica, you have to walk kind of along the ice wall to get into the locker room, because that's the way the building is set up, which is silly-ish. But if that's the way the building is, you can't just dig your own tunnel through the back of the bench.
It's the same in Rockford, so it's nothing weird to me when I see that happen.
Yeah, and a lot of minor league arenas are set up like that, so it's not terribly weird. So it's why was Kevin Dineen on the ice? I'm well, he's probably starting to walk back to the locker room and then saw this happening. It was what do I do? Just keep walking at that point? No. He looked like he maybe got 10 feet from the bench onto the ice. And, from what you can see on AHL TV, did Kevin Dineen really do anything that was super ridiculous? No. He yelled at his players to shut up and go to the locker room, and was trying to pull guys off of him. But that was really all you could see from AHL TV. If you want to tell me in the arena that more happened before the camera cut to them, fine. I'd be surprised by that, but it looked really nothing more than Kevin Dineen pulling a guy off another guy and doing some yelling, mostly at his own team.
It was pretty funny, though, because you rarely see that happen these days.
I put that entirely on Laval. You just lost on the road. Go to the locker room. There was no reason for you to stick around.
Yeah, I wish that the camera would have been focused over there, but why would it be? It's not something you expect. But it just kind of happened out of nowhere. They're just talking about the win, then all of a sudden, wait, there's something happening at center ice.
Too. He was just oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, like even he was just like, I don't know what's happening right here.
Ugh, that was something else. But shall
I
we
love
move
Fabian
on?
Zetterlund just doing like a Ned Braden laps around, just like pumping up the crowd. He was
Yeah.
literally a striptease away from making Slapshot 3.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. That would have made everything just 1,000% better.
Oh
But let's move on to the players. So, with the addition of Devontae Smith-Pelly, does Laval now lead the AHL in hyphenated names?
They might. That's Devontae Smith-Pelly, Harvey Pinard, Paquet Pizan. If we're going first names too here, Jean-Sebastien Day, Jean-Christophe Baudin, Louis-Philippe Guidon. Like, that's a lot of hyphens. I don't even know how to use a hyphen half the time. Like, Grammarly tells me how to use the hyphen.
They
So,
need to go out and get JF Berube.
I mean, it's not like Ontario, or not even Ontario, Cleveland. It's not like he's doing great work in Cleveland, which not shocking, but it's that is a lot of hyphenations. I still think the league that Rockford leads the league in made up names per 60, but that's a story for another time. I think that is the AHL leader in hyphens though on one roster.
Could you be talking about Andre Altibarmakian from Rockford?
That's DJ Busdecker, Michael Tepley. Who was the ultimate in made up names they had last year? Oh God, I can't think of it. There was one that I'm like, that's not a real person. What's that?
Last year?
Yeah, there was someone on their team last year where I'm like, that's not a real person. That's a made up name. Like that sounds like
Mate Halupa?
What's that?
Was it Mate Halupa? Spelled
No.
like chalupa, but it was Halupa.
Oh no, I remember him. That I was pretty sure he was like Taco Bell CEO, but no. But in terms of man, I can't think of it. Oh, it'll come back to me later randomly. I'm just gonna shout out a random Rockford Ice Hog from 1920. All right.
Perfect. But who stood out to you this weekend, good and bad, for Laval on the individual player level?
I mean, it's hard not to say that Brandon Baddock didn't stand out for bad reasons. Literally has no AHL level hockey skills, and it's just an embarrassment out there. Chasing hits, making just boneheaded defensive mistakes, and doing stupid goon nonsense directly cost his team not one, not two, not three, but 4 goals this weekend. God knows how many he has cost them over the course of a season. He serves zero purpose. Like, he is just there to get penalties. Like, he's like, oh, he can forecheck well and he makes timely hits. Like, no, he chases hits with his elbows out and then takes penalties for it. He like literally just tried to grab AJ Greer and fight him. Just drops his gloves in the middle of the offensive zone and is like, oh, what? It's just me now? It's all like, it was the clowniest display I have seen in quite some time. But he should get sent to Trois-Rivières, or better yet, the LNAH, where he very much belongs. He's not a hockey player. He's a goon. Kevin Poulin, on the other hand, was the sole reason Laval got a loser point this weekend. He misplayed the Holtz goal in overtime, but they came nowhere near overtime if he doesn't make a handful of just stupid saves. Like, there were a couple where I had to rewind. I'm like, that puck went in, right? Like, that puck definitely went in. No. He had one where he was literally falling backwards and caught the puck out of the air. Insane. Like, and I don't understand why Kevin Poulin's been bounced around the AHL in Europe the past few years. His numbers all around are at least league average or better in most of those places. Maybe he's an asshole in the locker room. I obviously don't know, but he's been better than Michael McNiven has been for Laval in years, and somehow keeps ending up as their third goaltender or like in the DEL or something. And it's like, he belongs in the AHL. He's been good just about everywhere, at least like okay-ish. He's been better than Phoenix Copley the last 3 years. Like, and Phoenix Copley is married to the Hershey Bears. So I don't get that one. You could also see a lot of frustration in Kevin Waugh, not Kevin Roy, Kevin Waugh, having a disappointing season, especially having a disappointing season in his home province team of Laval, Quebec-born kid. However, you got to at least try to play defense if you're him, especially when your team is just bleeding chances left, right, and center. You need to be making more of an effort defensively. And I've said on the podcast many times, if you could put up elite offensive numbers, I don't care if you could play defense. If you could score, 0.6 goals per game or a point per game average, don't play defense. I can work around that if that means that you can score more points. If you are not doing that, and Kevin Waugh is not doing that, he is not even closely approaching those thresholds, you need to come play some defense. You need to get in there and block some shots, make some poke checks, put up some kind of effort that doesn't look unplugged controller. And Kevin Waugh is not doing that. And part of that is probably frustration. This Laval team has kind of peaked and valleyed over the course of the season. They looked like they were maybe going someplace good. They still have, their third and fourth string and I think fifth string goalie in there, as everyone on Montreal's goaltending roster is hurt. Carey Price is probably not coming back this season. Jake Allen's on IR. At one point, Michael McNiven also on IR. It's Sam Montembeault and Caden Primo in Montreal right now, which has been very nice for me betting against them. But at the same point, that sucks. And that's not going to make Laval move too much further, because you can have all of the talent skating around in the world out there, but if you don't have goaltending, it does not matter. That is a quote from a much smarter hockey mind than me and Rachel Dory. But Kevin Waugh, you need to get back and play defense. I understand being frustrated. You had a lot of scoring chances, especially against Belleville, where you could just see him look up to the stands and almost ask the hockey gods, why? But you got to put in better efforts in your defensive zone.
Well, they've got to put that frustration behind them because these games are over. So, Sean, what is next? Where do both teams go from here?
Laval hosts Syracuse in a kind of standard Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 3 and 4. Syracuse has been a bit better recently, but has not had the goaltending or scoring depth you would have expected from the roster on paper. This is a good chance for the Rocket to get back on track, a get-right series. It is on the road in Syracuse for all three, but still, Syracuse has struggled in places that they shouldn't have. They also seem to enjoy some scumbaggery from their bottom six, so Brandon Baddock will fit right in that role. But these should be games Laval at least comes away with 4 out of 6 points, if not more than that. So this is a good shot for them to kind of get back on track and put this very bad, no good weekend behind them.
Well, good luck to them, I guess. But right here, we are going to take a break. And after the break, we are going to get to the Iowa Wild and my hometown team, the Rockford Ice Hogs. But if you are just here for Laval, thank you so very much for stopping by. And don't forget to subscribe to this lovely podcast wherever you are listening, so you get episodes in a timely fashion, because you don't want to miss out if you're waiting for the games this coming weekend. You got to hear the preview, and then you don't want to miss the recap like we're doing right here. But also, check these guys out on social media. The links to all of their pages, as well as the links to their YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found at the Linktree page. And if you haven't got that link, it is linktr.ee, so linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We are going to pay some bills, and we shall be right back. And we are back. And since we are back, like I promised, we are now going to talk about the Iowa Wild and my Rockford Ice Hogs. They had a weekend series. They played Friday night in Iowa, and then they were in my hometown Saturday night at the BMO Harris Bank Center. And there were quite a few goals scored this weekend. So, Sean, you're up. What happened this weekend?
Friday, Alec Regula gloves down a clearing attempt from Cramrosa and puts it across Royal Road to Mitchell, who blasts one past the Hamburglar to get the scoring going with under 6 minutes left in the first. Kalen Addison loses a foot race to Evan Barrett on a rush chance as Barrett catches a pass from Cam Morrison, buries it to make it 2-0 Ice Hogs. Ian Mitchell takes another one home as the passive penalty kill the Wild continues to shoot themselves in the foot. Lucas Reichel gets in on the action to make it 4-0 Ice Hogs. The Wild get 2 fluky ones back in garbage time as the first one hits Isaac Phillips in front and Missley puts in the rebound into a mostly empty net. Then Murmis gets one through traffic that looks like it hit something on its way in, but it's too little too late. Ice Hogs take it 4-2. On Saturday, a complete reverse trend from Friday's game as the Wild get on the board first as Kyle Rao puts home a bad rebound from Cale Morris to make it 1-0. Marco Rossi walks Ian Mitchell down after he gives up a sloppy gap at the blue line. Rossi uses him as a screen and blasts one past Cale Morris to make it 2-0 Wild. Another bad rebound from Cale Morris sees Mason Shaw make it 3-0. Chad Yetman makes a horrid turnover that Marco Rossi recovers and hits Chafee in the inner slot to make it 4-0. The Ice Hogs put 2 in during garbage time as Isaac Phillips activates off the blue line and puts in a backdoor pass to make it 4-1. A few minutes of game time later, the Wild badly blow a defensive zone coverage, and Alec Regula gives them all a minus, and a stat that doesn't matter, but that would be it. The Wild take it 4-2. In our preview, CC picked Rockford and Iowa and Rockford, and was right. I went the opposite there. I blamed the fact that I was hungry and went for home cooking. I took Iowa and then Rockford. The model had Iowa as the favorite on Friday, Rockford as the favorite on Saturday, but by tiny margins. So we thought this was going to be a kind of closely contested series, but a strange one nonetheless.
It's usually pretty strange when these two teams meet up. In these last 2 years, Iowa's been pretty tough on the Ice Hogs, and that kind of trickled over into Friday night's game, which was quite the game we had there, eh? I know you're not one for bashing the refs typically, because in most cases it's not warranted, and I happen to think it's a lazy cop-out that fans use if your team loses. So I also don't bash officiating often. But I feel like maybe there needs to be a discussion for what happened on Friday.
There definitely does. I will say across all 6 games that we covered this weekend, officiating was not great in all of them. But usually it's, you miss a call here, you miss a call there. That's your 2 people trying to watch 12 and the puck. It's a very difficult job. This Friday game in Rockford, though, I want to read you Rule 48.1 from the AHL's official league rulebook, page 107. Illegal check to the head. A hit resulting in contact with the opponent's head where the head was the main point of contact and such contact of the head was avoidable is not permitted. In determining whether an opponent's head was avoidable, the circumstances of the hit include the following shall be considered. Whether the player attempted to hit squarely through the opponent's body and the head was not picked as a result of poor timing, poor angle of approach, or unnecessary extension of the body upward or outward. Whether the opponent put himself in a vulnerable position by assuming a posture that made head contact an otherwise full body check unavoidable, or 3, where the opponent materially changed the position of his body or head immediately prior to or simultaneously with a hit in a way that significantly attributed to head contact. For violation of this rule, a minor penalty shall be assessed. There is no variation for a major penalty. None? There is none. You cannot call a major penalty for a legal check to the head according to the AHL rulebook, which is incredibly dumb. I think it's one of the only physical fouls in the AHL rulebook that cannot result in a major penalty. It can result in a match penalty and a game misconduct, but not a major penalty.
Because that makes sense.
I don't think they thought that one through. Regardless, the referees did not call that penalty on Kyle Rao. They somehow came out with matching penalties for that entire affair and let the game skate 5-on-5 after Kyle Rao tried to murder Lucas Reichel. Then they realized that giving out 10-minute misconducts is what the play is, what they should have done about 3 post-whistle fights too late. They very nearly lost control of this game. Not to mention, I counted 4 blatant missed calls in the second period after that Rao on Reichel hit. Alone, 4 missed calls watching in real time. So not like rewind, Zapruder film style, straight, that was a slash. That was blatant interference. That was a blatant board. They let Curtis Gabriel just go flying around, charging boarding guys the entire game unchecked. And I like Curtis Gabriel a lot as a human being. He's done a lot of great work in the community and for LGBT causes. I think that's amazing. He's a shithead as a player, though. and I will go on the record with that position. Plain and simple, that officiating crew needs to be reprimanded for that game because that was atrociously officiated and an embarrassment.
Yep. And usually I will stick up for my players, but Curtis Gabriel hasn't been one of my guys long enough to really be able to stick up for him. So I'm going to go along with your take there. But did you have something else?
I mean, like, he literally was just taking full, like, how many strides can I take and ram right into this guy before they will call me for a serious penalty. And apparently, like, after the first time he got called, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this. And they stopped calling him. It's like,
because that also makes sense.
yeah, it was just, and like, I understand if, you want to let the boys play or whatever, but you need to have a, like, what is a penalty and call what is a penalty through the entire game. And I understand
consistency from officials.
Consistency, but like, when you were clearly about to lose control of the game, like when that row on Reichel hit happened, you saw the very obvious fallout that happened right with it. You need to be giving 10s right there, because the second you give guys 10-minute misconducts, which certainly were not unwarranted. Like, there are some 10s I've seen given out where it's like, okay, that was unnecessary. I understand you're trying to, kind of regain control of the game, but like, we aren't at that point yet. They were at that point immediately after that hit happened. And still we're like, no, 2 fighting penalties and a matching minor. And predictably, prison rules ensued, and they pretty much lost control of the game until they realized, oh, we need to be giving guys 10s. And then suddenly it got under control. Weird how that keeps happening.
Amazing, right? I've seen worse punishment handed out for talking back to the refs than for, I don't know, trying to take a guy's head off. But anyway, moving on from that, from an actual hockey perspective, we had matching 4-2 games in this series. The road team scored 4 straight, a power play goal, a 5-on-5 goal, a power play goal, and then a 5-on-5 goal, followed by 2 goals from the home team in garbage time. You don't see that level of mirror games very often on the score sheet. Besides the officiating, what was the story of these games?
Yeah, it was really weird to see that exact pattern of the home team scores a 5-on-5, a power play, a 5-on-5, a power play, and then the road team scores that, and then the home team scores 2 garbage time goals, and it's 4-2. Like, the exact pattern. Very weird. On Friday, though, the story of the game was Arvid Soderblom doing Arvid Soderblom things, stealing the game the Ice Hogs had no business being in. They got largely outchanced, including a 2-on-0 off a sloppy line change. However, the few scoring chances the Ice Hogs had were grade A+ that went across Royal Road and gave Hammond a basically Hail Mary chance of making a save. Spoiler, he mostly did not. I saw Wild fans complaining about starting Hammond in this game as he was cold and the Wild were on a winning streak. I thought Hammond looked fine. I saw people complaining that he looked off. I don't agree with that assessment. He and Churchman hadn't played in over a month, but both looked fine to me. The idea that you don't start Hammond there because he hasn't played in over a month and the Wild are on a winning streak, what message does that send to your goaltender if you're the head coach? What message does it send to your locker room? You can't keep sitting him because the team or Zane McIntyre are hot. That's akin to sitting Hammond because your horoscope said so. The Wild lost on Friday because their defense made bad mistakes, and the Ice Hawks took full advantage of them. And Arvid Soderblom is a dark horse MVP candidate this season and probably has diagnosable scoliosis from carrying Rockford this long. Rockford is also one of the best teams in the AHL at holding on to third period leads. They're undefeated with a third period lead in regulation. They're 10-2 on the season, losing both in overtime and one in overtime, one in the shootout. So basically parts of the game that are unrelated to 5-on-5 hockey. That's impressive because their ability to lock down the slot and force you to beat Soderblom cleanly is a surprisingly effective game strategy, because beating Soderblom cleanly from the outside is very, very hard. And that's why Rockford, when they get leads, we always say, if you're going to play Rockford, do some risky offensive stuff early, because if you let Rockford get a lead, they're great at just saying, all right, we're done with the offensive stuff. We're all just going to stand in front of the net and force you to like shoot from the blue line or outside. Saturday's game, not a great game from Cale Morris. Bad rebound control all over the place. Rockford getting pinned on their defensive zone a few times and just bleeding quality scoring chances, especially off sloppy plays from the Ice Hogs on puck retrievals or breakout passes. And Iowa took advantage. One area that was a huge concern for me going forward here is the penalty kill. Rockford's power play, not that great, well below average in net penalty kill. And yet they went 2 for 5 and nearly had a few more because Iowa just sat back and tried to defend the slot instead of pressuring puck carriers. When you are 5-on-5 defending the slot and just, locking down things in front, is a much more viable strategy than 5-on-4. I don't feel like I should have to explain why. But I've said it many times before, and I have now a running Twitter thread with screenshots of it, which I think you've seen some of, Courtney. Passive penalty kills are the surest fire way to not have a top 10 PK in the AHL. If you willingly give up time and space to the best offensive players the other team has, they will beat the wheels off of you. Rockford, whose power play ain't great, they did that. They scored 2 power play goals and nearly had quite a few others, scoring on the exact same plays they ran to score the first power play goals Friday night. Lucas Reichel to Ian Mitchell play from the goal line. They tried that exact same thing the next night. The only difference is Zane Mack just got a piece of it with his elbow and Andrew Hammond didn't, which is basically random luck. That's not great, but again, Saturday, bad game from Cale Morris. The free Cale Morris movement took a hit.
You said that the games were mirrored this weekend, and in more ways than one, because Cale also hasn't played in over a month, just like Hammond. So, got to stick up for my goalie. It's been a while. Iowa always gives them fits. Second half of a back-to-back. It sucks, but hey, he's got to get a game in at some point, right?
Especially with like their, like random rotation of goaltenders where it's like taxi squads are over, but still maybe Colin Delia.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? And Cale was also stuck on the taxi squad for a while, just, because. So I'm very glad those are finally over. I was upset when they came back, but they're gone now. But before I go on that taxi squad rant that I am very good at going on, who stood out to you at a player level this weekend?
Well, since we talked about Cale Morris, I don't think this game was indicative. I've heard it both ways, of Cale Morris's ability. He did make some big saves, definitely had some Soderblom-like moments where Rockford just failed in front of him and he had to come up big. But that rebound control was not what I'm used to seeing from him. Again, the hashtag free Cale Morris movement, not doing so hot after that game. I thought Kevin Churchman played pretty well, broke up a few passes that were dangerous, made some simple yet useful plays on offense that may not end up on the score sheet, but are ones that keep the flow of play going in the Wild's direction. Marco Rossi is too good for this league, but I'm sure happy he's here. I don't feel like I have to, pump his tires too much. If you've watched Marco Rossi play, you know that guy is great. I don't even have to see like jersey numbers when Marco Rossi touched puck. I'm like, that's Marco Rossi. That kid is so smooth. Joe Hicketts did not have a great weekend. A few turnovers in his defensive zone, plus a few times where he just threw away perfectly good opportunities to make offense and turn them into shots from distance, dump and chase plays where it was like, you could have made that into something. And that's something that a lot of players who it seems like don't ever quite make the leap, don't grab onto as a concept of you can't just throw away pucks. Like, I understand sometimes, you have to dump and change. You have to get off the ice. You're pinned in by the other side. Those are different from, oh, hey, I'm under basically no pressure. I'm not that far into my shift, and I'm just going to launch this puck from center ice because I know it won't get me benched. Like, that's not going to move, the team forward in that game, you forward as a player, or you forward as a future player in this league. Like, you need guys who can move the puck and improve the condition of the puck from just having possession to having a scoring chance. And not a lot from Joe Hicketts in that department this weekend. I don't think that's going to stick around for very long. He's usually solid, but worth noting, not a good weekend for him. Despite getting beat in a foot race versus Penn State product Evan Barrett, Kalen Addison played well for the most part. Shutdown defense is never going to be a calling card of his. It's going to be what he does in transition and in the offensive zone. And he was our defenseman of the year last year for that reason. That kid can absolutely ball. He had a slow start to the season, but he's definitely starting to feel it. He jumped up into the play a few times that were beautiful. The shot that he got through, a good shots. You could see head up looking for that seam. But I like Kalen Addison going forward. I thought the things that he does well, he did very well this weekend. Good to see from him. Surprising game from Evan Barrett. He is someone who seems like he kind of waxes and wanes in terms of his effectiveness, but he's definitely starting to find more of his speed in the AHL, which I like to see. As you know, a card-carrying member of the Penn State Alumni Association, I always cheer for my boys. So Evan Barrett, good to see him show up. Even kind of get involved in some of the scrum stuff afterwards, but in like a respectable teammate way and not the like, let's throw elbows at dudes who aren't looking kind of way.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't been upset with Evan Barrett at all. He took a little while to get adjusted to the American League last year, and he really does just keep improving, and he's been getting more ice time, given more responsibilities, and I think he's going to be a pretty good player if he makes it to the NHL. That'd be great. Otherwise, I think he'll be a really solid American League player for a while.
I think he's probably going to have a long career in the AHL. I don't think he he lacks that like standout skill where it's like a lot of guys who make the NHL, they have at least one thing where you can point to and be like, that's an NHL skill. And if you can't see an NHL skill at the AHL level, it's probably not there. And you can get away with not having, one elite skill if you can put all of the ones that are pretty good on top of each other. So you have great puck skills and you have decent speed and you have good vision, and you can use those all at the same time to catch a pass within motion, make a move, and then set somebody else up. Evan Barrett does not have those things. He is someone who makes lemonade with the lemons he has. No offense to him. Being a hockey player at that level and the top 0.1% of people who have ever picked up the sport is really, really hard. And the slope gets ever slipperier the higher you get on it. So him lacking kind of the physical tools to make that happen, but still managing to leverage that into a solid middle six AHL career is still worth applauding. That's challenging enough to do on its own when you're not, 6'3" with giant, Stretch Armstrong limbs. And he's doing a good job with it.
For sure. I think if they could get him to refine his defensive game a little more, he could be one of those guys that gets the call up if there's injuries, sort of like, coming from the Blackhawks perspective, since I'm in that land, like a Marcus Kruger type of player, or maybe even a Michael Frolik type player. I could see him going that route if he does get time in the NHL. And you never know. If not, I will enjoy him down here in Rockford.
And I think that's where you see a lot of the direction of those guys kind of go, where it's like they realize they're never going to be able to make, NHL level offensive plays. So they kind of go back the other direction and like, all right, if I'm going to get called up, they're probably going to put me in fourth line minutes and expect me to do fourth line things. Like you can't put Lucas Reichel in the fourth line in Chicago and be like, go kill penalties and block shots. Like that's not what he's doing. That's not what he's good at. So the guys who are like, well, if I'm going to get called up and put in those spots, I should be, focusing on the skills that will help me excel in those spots and hold on to a lineup spot. Like I think of Joel Kiviranta, who came from Texas and played in Dallas. Like he's managed to stick in Dallas despite being not actually that impressive overall, but because he has, attention to small detail and is able to kind of fill those like bottom line penalty killer, bottom six defensive forward kind of moments. He's able to find favor with a coach who will, just continue to put him out there despite the fact that he's not actually that good.
This is true, but talking about advancing, where do these teams go from here?
Iowa plays a Thursday-Friday series against Grand Rapids in Iowa, then heads back to Rockford next Tuesday for a one-game rematch. Grand Rapids has been in free fall, winning 2 of their last 10 games, and having seen a couple of them, hasn't looked great in losing either. It has very much been a rough go in Grand Rapids this year, despite having, quite a few bright spots on the team to talk about. None of them are defensemen by and large. So this should be a good opportunity for Grand Rapids for Iowa Thursday, Friday to, get back some standings points that they maybe let go in Rockford this weekend. Rockford is a home and home against Chicago in the upcoming weekend, and Chicago, despite being third in the AHL in points percentage, the Wolves have won just 3 of their last 10 games and are 3-5 on the season to Rockford. So even though on paper you would be like, oh, that's not great, you have to go play Chicago in a home and home, Rockford's been making that happen. And Chicago has been kind of loose recently. So a good opportunity here for Rockford to, keep Chicago on the skid.
This is where I remind everybody, since it was a month ago now, that Rockford kicked off 2022 by beating the Chicago Wolves 8-0.
I was forced to watch that game as part of our weekend series, and wow, I have never seen a team that did not want to play defense as badly as the Chicago Wolves in that game. And even in like their post-game stuff, they were like, yeah, we just could not find like the will to carry on. But yeah, we are going to take a break here before Courtney gloats too much about beating Chicago 8-0. After the break, we will get to the cream of the crop, the best players for the weekend. And we do have a quiz, despite Cece not being here. If you are just here for Iowa and Rockford, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Figure out how to spell the Calder Farmstead on your own time. We are going to pay some bills. We will be right back. We are back from our last break of the show, and we are going to go into the cream of the crop, the best players from the AHL from the weekend. We are a weekend podcast. We give out weekend rewards. First for me, before I do mention, we do not have Macho Man appearing on the show. My voice box does not make that impression. I don't think Courtney's probably does either. So,
definitely not.
We will not be having any Slim Jim snapping in this episode, unfortunately. So my third cream of the crop is Johnny Brodzinski of the Hartford Wolfpack. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points on the weekend, 3 primary points. He now has goals in 9 straight games, which is a Hartford Wolfpack franchise record. Big part of that team. He's been the straw that stirs that drink. Johnny be good. Johnny Brodzinski, Hartford Wolfpack, my third cream of the crop for the weekend. Courtney, who is yours?
This might come as a total surprise, but I'm going to bring some love back to the Central Division over here, and gotta go with one of my own. Number 3, I have Ian Mitchell. He had 2 goals this weekend and 2 power play goals this weekend, which if you watch the Ice Hogs, that's a big deal because they don't score on the power play very much. Both of those goals came Friday in Iowa, his first 2-goal game in the AHL. So hand claps for Ian Mitchell. And he's quietly having a really great season for Rockford. He's got 5 goals and 10 assists on the season. And from the eye test, since we already went over how we don't get accurate time on ice counts, he's been getting more minutes in Rockford and more responsibilities, and he's done good things with it. So number 3, I have Ian Mitchell. Then we move on to number 2. Who you got, Sean?
I have Danny O'Regan of the San Diego Gulls, a 2-goal, 4-assist, 6-point weekend. If you put 6 points up on the weekend, you were going to find yourself in this segment of the show, especially when 4 of them are primary points. Big weekend for him against the Tucson Jekyll and Hydes, but still managed to have an impact in that game. 2 goals, 4 assists. Again, you put 6 points on the board, you're going to end up on the cream of the crop graphic somewhere. But that is my second Danny O'Regan San Diego Gulls.
At number 2, I must angrily put Zane McIntyre, the goaltender of note that beat my Rockford Ice Hogs on Saturday night. He faced 37 shots, and he only allowed 2 goals, and those 2 coming in the third period when they'd pretty much secured their win. He also stopped a Dylan McLaughlin penalty shot at the end of the second period. Unfortunately, in my case, fortunately for him and the Iowa faithful. And he's got 10 games with the Wild now because he joined them at the beginning of January. He's got a record of 6-4-0 and a .918 save percentage. And that's kind of helped the Wild turn the table around here. But they were struggling, but now they're back up. And they past Rockford in the standings. So, Zane McIntyre, you're my number 2. Who you got at number 1, Sean?
Number 1, I have Michael Carcone. 5 goals on the weekend. 5 big goals for the Roadrunners. First goal tied the game at 2. Second goal brought Tucson back to within 1 late in the third period. Put up 2 goals in the first period on Saturday to give Tucson a lead into the first intermission, and then scored an insurance goal that became the game winner after the fact. Those are 5 important goals, and Michael Carcone scored all of them. He is not unfamiliar with having just weekends like this where that one-timing ripping shot that he has just puts him on the board like this. I think this is his 3rd time this season on Cream of the Crop, but he is the top of the cream of the crop for me, the creamiest. Michael Carcone, Tucson Roadrunners.
For my number 1, I am going to leave the Central Division, shockingly, but before I do that, I must give a shout out to my goaltender, Arvid Soderblom, for playing a fantastic game on Friday night. But now we go up to the North Division, and Rourke Chartier of the Belleville Senators, he had a 2-goal, 3-assist weekend. He picked up only an assist in Friday night's game, but he came back with an absolute vengeance on Saturday and put up 2 goals and 2 assists. He opened the scoring with the first 2 goals of the game, and 3 of those 4 points came at even strength, which is even more impressive. So he, as you said, is the creamiest for me this weekend, the top of the cream of the crop. But I cannot end this segment in the North Division, so I have to give another shout out to an Ice Hog, and that is my boy, Isaac Phillips. He scored a goal Saturday, as you said, in garbage time. Didn't really matter, but it's his 4th goal of the season, and he doesn't get enough recognition over there on the back end for Rockford, so that is the guy I have to shout out. And don't sleep on the kid, because he's 20 and one of the best defenders on the team.
All right. And that brings us to a quiz. We don't usually get to have quizzes when Cece is not here, but Courtney agreed to it, which makes this her own fault. So we are going to play Mugshots, Rockford edition. Dun, dun, dun. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this game that we played just about a month ago, I am going to show Courtney Rockford Ice Hog mugshots that are their AHL.com official, profile picture. And she has a chance, as soon as she sees it, to name the player. If she can name the player, 2 points. If she can't name the player right away, she gets an ABC option. And if she gets it off the ABC option, she gets 1 point. You need 4 points to win. There are 7 pictures. Are you ready, Courtney? Can you see this screen?
I can see the screen, yes. No pressure at all.
Perfect.
Shake out the nerves. Here we go.
All right. First up. Do you know that guy?
Would be Evan Barrett.
Oh, this is going to go so poorly. That is, in fact, Penn State alum Evan Barrett.
Whew, all 1
right.
for 1.
Already 2 points on the board. Second picture.
That would be Lucas Reichel.
I feel like I should have made these harder up front. That was maybe not the best quizmaster moment of me. You have already won.
You want to show me the others just to see how this goes?
For posterity's sake. Let's go.
Let's go.
Third one.
That's Brett Connolly.
All right.
Who's the same age as I am, but looks about 20 years older than me.
Yeah,
somehow.
That's true. All right. Fourth one.
Carson Gosevich?
Yes. Pixelated, but...
Pixelated and also no longer an Ice Hog, Chad Chris?
He played for the Ice Hogs this season. That was my only criteria. That is Chad Chris. Oh, my God. All right.
Oh. Let's see here. You might have stumped me with this one, but one moment. Who's on my team?
I mean, it only took me 6 of these to finally get you to have to pause for a second. So I had no chance here.
Oh. Trying to think of new guys.
Would you like the ABC?
I would.
Is it A, Nicholas Baudin, B, Philip Khrushchev, or C, Jakob Poor?
Jakob Poor.
All right.
I don't think I've ever actually seen a picture of Jakob Poor.
But you knew it definitely wasn't Baudin or Khrushchev.
Yes.
All right. Last one.
Last one. That would be Ryan Stanton. Second time Ice Hog.
Oh, this was not a good choice of quiz by me at all. Oh, all right. Well, that is it, Courtney. You won our quiz. That means you have 30 untimed seconds to say what is ever on your mind.
What's
on your mind, Courtney? What would you like to rant about?
Ooh, what I would like to rant about is typically the taxi squad, but the taxi squad is over now. So I am going to rant about the fact that the Ice Hogs might have a 3-goalie rotation again, unless they send Cale Morris back down to Indy, which they really shouldn't because he deserves to be in the AHL, but we all know that Arvid Soderblom's not getting sent back down to the ECHL because he's just too good, and Colin Delia also isn't. And I hate the 3-goalie system because one guy ultimately gets left out all the time, doesn't get enough playing time. We saw it with Colin Delia last year in Chicago where he got totally screwed out of ice time. And it's not fair. And I want all of my goalies to play a bunch of games because I want to see them all and I want them all to do well. So the 3-goalie system is something that makes me very mad when there is no taxi squad to be mad about. How would that go? Is that 30 seconds?
Yeah. Are you prepared to sign off the show as well? Because that is part of winning.
I am ready to sign off the show because that is it for the show. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at fullpresscoverage.com. Just click the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website, and you can enjoy them.
And if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter and at The Calder Farmstead on Facebook and Instagram. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION, so he can make music for you too. Courtney, where can people find you?
My name is Courtney Bauman, and thank you, Sean, so much for having me on. This has been a wonderful time. I can't replace CC. He does such a great job on here, but I did my best to fill in. But you guys can find me over on Twitter at Courtney Dagger. I am on Instagram at Courtney Dagger 50. You can also find me tweeting more hockey stuff over on the From Center Ice Twitter account, which is at VF Center Ice Pod. There's also an Instagram at From Center Ice Pod, or just check out FromCenterIce.com to find the links to everything. You can also find my writing about the Ice Hogs over on Full Press Coverage, just like where you can find this very podcast. And in my best but probably failing CC impression, Sean, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at SeanO'Brien81. That's SeanO'Brien81. I'm also on Instagram at SeanO'Brien_81. Sean O'Brien81 on Instagram is a different Sean O'Brien. Both of those are personal accounts. My Twitter is mostly hockey, but other random musings of the world around me. My Instagram is almost entirely random musings of the world around me, featuring a jersey of the day, highlight story thing, because I have way too many hockey jerseys, and screw it, this seemed like fun, and a good number of pictures of my dog being adorable. You can find my stats work on Tableau. That's all of the graphs you see on Twitter that are puck luck and model things and all of that fun stuff that we talk about. That is all stats work done by me. It's found on my Tableau page at bit.ly/datadumpandchase. All lowercase, all one word. Courtney, take us home.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to this show. Bye, guys.